This is Amanda Greening and Krysta Turner, When Fur Flies. When Fur Flies by Amanda Greening and Krysta Turner.
Come on, come on! No, Natalie, what are you doing? That's the wrong way. That's way hot, buddy.
Good morning,
Madam Chairperson, honorable judges,
fellow 4-Hers,
family and guests.
You know those cute little fuzzy bunnies that everyone thinks are just good for pets, food, and sometimes pests in the garden? They can't possibly have any other personality or use, right?
Well, you're wrong! Amanda and I are the co-founders of the ever-so-famous Canadian Rabbit Hopping Club, or CRHC for short, and we know firsthand just how much personality these little guys have. As a matter of fact, why don't we introduce you to them right now?
Willow was my first bunny to compete with me in the sport when the club started. He's a 3-year-old mini-lap buck, and he's one of the founding buddies. He's getting a little on the older side, though, and isn't as fast as he used to be. He's very affectionate, though, and gets along with everyone he meets, so he's ideal for the public to see.
Jeremiah is my second partner in the sport of rabbit hopping. He's a 2-year-old Holland buck. At the start of his career, he was doing good, but after a year, he started to develop splay legs. For all of you who don't know what splay leg is, it's when the legs splay out to the side like little seal flippers. But this condition has not handicapped him. He still runs around the house and binkies all over, but sadly, because of this, I've retired him from rabbit hopping. Since Jeremiah can no longer jump properly, he prefers to knock off the bars and barrel through the course, hence the name, the Bulldozer.
Gravity Rabbit is my year-old Hullamutt buck that I received from a breeder when he was going to be culled. However, he is also very attached to me and tends to follow me around rather than actually run the course. And sometimes he'll get so confused when I'm asking him to run that he'll just run in circles instead. However, he's also quite the ham and loves attention. And so when there are people around, this is usually the point where he decides he's going to be funny. Usually at top speed, he'll run around the course and then at some random point change direction and cause me to chase after him.
Oliver is currently my partner in rabbit hopping. He's a 9-month-old chocolate Dutch buck. Oliver is very smart when it comes to knowing when it's time to play and when it's time to focus and complete the course. When he's totally focused, he can really book it around the course without any fault.
The last of my buddies is a Dutch named Star. He's one of the laziest rabbits you'll ever see, and it takes a lot of motivation and practice to get him to do the course. And the buddies we have with us today are named Vector. These buddies are trained professionals. Do not allow your rabbits to try this at home.
Some of you may be wondering what is the difference between rabbit hopping and rabbit agility. In rabbit hopping, rabbits are trained to leap over a series of jumps, usually put in a straight line and varying heights. However, in rabbit agility, the animals are trained to go through varying obstacles similar to the style of dog agility. The CRHC is the first official club to compete in rabbit agility. Our obstacles include jump, hoop jump, tunnel, lead pulls, A-frame, rabbit walk, and teeter-totter. The rabbits have to properly learn how to do these obstacles, and unlike in rabbit hopping, where height is the main objective, speed is a bigger factor in this, and these animals often complete off-leash rather than always on.
However, you cannot just expect these little bunnies to automatically know how to do it, so how do we train these little critters? In training a bunny, the first thing you need is a proper harness. Remember to never ever use a figure-8 harness, since when the leash pulls on it, it will tighten around the throat and cut off your bunny's breathing. A proper harness has a fabric running between the loops, so when you hold it up, it should form a capital H shape.
Gradually, introduce them to the jumps first, since it is the most obstacle used, and then get them used to jumping over a single bar. As the bunny begins to grasp the idea of going over, you can start adding other obstacles one at a time, and teach them how to properly approach them. The bunnies will gain a better understanding the more you train, so practice makes perfect. Alright, so we have a club with rabbits. How do we approach the public?
Good question. A surprising amount of people are rather interested in hearing about our little hobby, and we have been contacted by a fair amount of media. It really started in our second 4-H on parade when we managed to get on the cover of the supplements in the Calgary Herald. And we were contacted by Global TV to do an interview with Gil Tucker about the sport. We also did an interview on Breakfast TV with Dave Kelly. After that, we were really noticed, and it was a pleasant surprise when people were showing up at 4-H on parade just to see us and our bunnies.
Another big deal for us is when we did an interview with the Edmonton Journal at a show in Bonnie Doon Mall. There were times that we were completely surrounded by people that were cheering very enthusiastically for their favorite rabbits. Wow, hopping rabbits? Really unique idea. How did we come up with it again?
Well, if I remember correctly, the CRHC started in 2007 through the Calgary 4-H Softpaws Rabbit Project. We found that usually the projects consisted of meat or fur rabbits and selling them at the end of the year. Since none of us were willing to part with our bunnies, we began looking for an alternative base to do the project on, and through a website in Denmark, we discovered rabbit hopping.
We started with true rabbit hopping through the year and had a lot of fun with our buddies. And when summer came around, the 4-H activities began to die down, except for rabbit hopping. we got into the Calgary Stampede and performed there, as we began to realize that perhaps our humble little hoppers could expand and create a club truly their own. The first name was the Canadian Rabbit Hopping Club, and from there our enthusiasm was boundless.
More obstacles were added, and our course grew at an amazing rate. And through fellow member Rihanna, we were able to get a hold of our current sponsor, Obi Systems, on June 16, 2008, who specializes in grain quality management. Because of the money they funded us, we were able to get Xing pens, uniforms, equipment, travel money, and our banner.
Keep in mind that not all bunnies are meant to be hoppers. You need to have a good bond with your bunny and know it and be able to interpret its body language and know how it will react to a certain situation. Each bunny has a certain personality. Instead of being completely unintelligent, as a fair number of people believe, they're actually quite quirky.
However, not all bunnies are as affectionate and cuddly as many people believe. They can actually be quite aggressive at times, sometimes biting and refusing to let go. Don't get me wrong. When you find the bunny for you, it's a wonderful experience. However, you must be able to trust the animal since you're taking it out into public, and some people are quite clueless to bunny etiquette, so you must both have patience. Now, this sounds like a lot of fun, but I'm guessing there are some rules involved?
That's right. In the CRHC competitions, we have different classes that you and your partner can compete in, but there are some rules that are mandatory for every event.
For the safety of children and bunnies, people are not allowed to use the equipment.
Every rabbit must have a harness.
No rabbit can be kicked or nudged with your feet or harmed in any way.
Rabbits must have a clean bill of health before entering the ring.
When a rabbit leaves a present behind, the trainer is responsible for cleaning it up.
Wow, this sounds like a lot of work. How do you divide the classes?
Easy peasy. The first event is the time trials. This is where the agility course is set up, and you and your rabbit must start on the pause box. When the judge says go, your time will start, and your rabbit must complete the course as fast as it can. And when the time stops, all 4 paws land on the pause box. If a pole is knocked off or the rabbit refuses an obstacle, this is a 1-second penalty.
The class after that is the side-by-side races. In this event, the course is set up in 2 straight lines, side by side, and the exact same obstacles are placed on each course in the same order and the same height. Each rabbit must start on the first mat, and when the judge says go, the rabbits must complete the course, and the first rabbit over the last jump wins.
The next class is the high jump. Now, this is pretty self-explanatory, but there are a few rules. Each rabbit has 3 tries to make it up and over the jump without knocking any pole off. The height starts at 1 bar and works its way up to some pretty amazing heights.
The last class is a crisscross race. This all happens on a course that's set up exactly like an agility course and involves 2 rabbits. Both rabbits must start on the pause box, and when the judge says go, one rabbit goes one way and the other goes the other way, and at some point they crisscross and continue racing the course. First rabbit with all 4 paws in the pause box wins the race.
So now that you know about us,
why are you still sitting here?
Adopt a bunny and
come join us. And remember, lots of love. Are there any questions?
Have you had any contact with the Danish club regarding anything with different training with theirs?
We haven't had any exact contact with them, but we have been looking on their website, and they have different techniques of training the rabbit.
So we kind of based everything off of their way of training and kind of made it our own way to fit the way we do it.
What's the highest a rabbit has ever jumped in your club and maybe someplace else, world record?
Well, that's why we set this up. This is the highest any of our rabbits have jumped, and that was the Babbity a little while ago. And that's 7 poles.
And then the world record, I believe, is 99.9 centimeters, which is about a meter. So it's pretty high. And that was done by a Dutch rabbit in Denmark.
Complicated name.
Yeah.
What are the best rabbits for jumping? Is there any kind of breed that are the best?
Well, for us, we haven't really had a best breed because supposedly it's supposed to be the Dutch because that's what they use in Denmark. But we've only really had one successful Dutch in the club. So any breed really works except for the really big breeds because they'll develop joint problems when they're doing it for too long. And that can be really uncomfortable. And the Angoras, since they have so much fur, it would knock off stuff anyway. And usually they're so big that they can't really do the obstacles.
And you also don't want to get one of those rabbits that have the really long ears, because when they're jumping over, they may land on the ear and hair off, as bad as it sounds, that it can happen or damage it. So you want to stay away from them.
So any breed.
Or try
Yeah,
their ears
anything.
up with a nice bowl.